Welcome into another episode of Immigrant Podcast. I'm your boy, Nicola Hill. We've discussed many topics recently. Our most recent topic, of course, is about the conflict that's happening in the Middle East, Africa, amongst those Arab countries, Palestine and Israel, the influence that Hamas and Hezbollah. A main part of what's happening in this conflict is the possession of weapons and firearms. We know there's an election happening.
What would you be urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do?
The first thing I said to him when it happened was I said, finish them. Finish them. And the reason is I worked on this every day when I was at the United Nations. And we have to remember that they have to, one, eliminate Hamas, two, support Israel with whatever they need whenever they need it, and three, make sure we bring our hostages home.
I would be telling Bibi, finish the job once and for all with these butchers, Hamas.
I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as President of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border.
Not only do you have the responsibility and the right to wipe Hamas off of the map, we will support you. We will be there with you. We will stand shoulder to shoulder. There will be no daylight.
The fact is that Israel and their intelligence community failed. They failed here, and they failed the people of the state of Israel. And so we need to work closely and better together to make sure, one, that they're degraded, and two, that we know everything that's going on inside the Gaza Strip when it's going on, so that something like this can't happen to kill 14.
Of course, the Republican Party is always in favor of a firearm. The Second Amendment, in a lot of ways, is part of what governs this entire country. On the other end, historically, the Democratic Party has been the ones that have been more willing to discuss what they want to do with gun policy, and of course, gun sales and the ownership of guns. I talked about the Second Amendment. Second Amendment clearly gives you the right to carry and bear a firearm, and that's what it guarantees you. So that's a part of American culture. Just a couple of stats here, just from the past few years. 17 million guns have been sold in the United States in the last year. 1.4 million guns per month. Of course, we know better than to think that those guns are kept within the United States, 1.4 million per month. Of course, I would predict that maybe at least half of those guns are exported outside of this country. And a lot of the times, these are the guns that end up in the hands of Hamas fighters or the Sudanese freedom fighters, depending on whichever party, whichever sides of the lines they're on. And this is America's influence into this war. It's something that, honestly has to be discussed, because without the freedom of purchase and sales of firearms, and if you can't get yourselves firearms and equipment, and bombs and missiles for use in war, then a lot of these wars wouldn't have the oomph, wouldn't have the capability of destruction, like we're seeing the 9,000 people dying in Sudan in the last calendar year, the 3,000 people plus that have died on the Palestinian side alone when it comes to this conflict between Israel and Hamas. So I'm passionate about the gun control, the gun laws that will be enacted in the future. This program has given you a background of Senator Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy. So I would like to know what is their input or their influence going to be when it comes to gun control, gun ownership, in going forward in the future. One of the things that spurred me to have this conversation is, of course, the 18 people who lost their lives in a bowling alley recently. Innocent people just out for a night of fun. The occurrence. Things that are happening all over this country that we're not even hearing about, whether it's 2 people dead here because of someone having a bad day, or 5 people there. When are we becoming too, are not conscious or not sympathetic to the loss of lives and the destruction of families through firearms. Why is there a necessity to keep on having sales of them? This is a hunting country. We know that the highest percentage of guns are sold in Alaska, Montana, and Wyoming. And those are cool. Those are obvious. Those are per capita sales. Those are wide open spaces where people are purchasing guns for hunting, for wildlife, doing wildlife things. But selling AK-47s and M16s is a problem, and we wouldn't want that to continue to be a problem for innocent people in a bowling alley. Going forward, we're going to touch on that a little bit more. We might have a guest going forward in the future when it comes to gun sales and what impact it has on the war in Congo, the war in Sudan, the war between Israel and Hamas, and the terrorism that's happening right here in the United States. Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, I'm Nikolai Hill. Peace out.